Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
All right, we are back with Code 47 on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. This is episode 150. It's a milestone, sorta. You know, it's funny. I'm first of all, Charlie Carden, Trek Lord of West Michigan, your humble servant here with you, joined by number one, Mr. Peter Stein. But I was thinking, you know, I was reflecting back on our 100th episode, which was our bracketology, which was a 3-hour-long episode, and it was really epic. And I thought, would that be something we would revisit one day? And I was talking to April about this earlier this week, and I thought, I don't know that we could ever do that again, because I don't really feel like where it matters, the results would change. You know what I mean? There hasn't been in the last 2 years an episode of Star Trek that you'd be like, but that shoots into the top 10. I don't think. You know what I mean?
The last couple episodes of Picard season 3 would be in the running. Yeah. But I don't know that they would be in top 10.
Yeah.
And Strange New Worlds has had some killer episodes, but one of them might be in the top 10, but I don't know that it would make it all the way.
I mean, maybe if we drilled it down to like a much smaller bracket, you know, and put some other kind of limits around it. I don't know, but it's food for thought in the future. But anyway, got a great show for you. We have it's our very special episode because we're going to be talking about a chunk of TNG episodes. That is the 3/4 mark. We're coming up on the end of the series.
And all kinds of special.
There are all kinds of special, which we dubbed that this episode could have no other name. So you'll be hearing about that. Plus, speaking of special, our random episode is an episode of TAS, and it's not even the animated series from the 70s, and it's not even one of the good ones, at least in my esteem. But we'll get into all of that after, as we always do, we talk about our awesome folks over at our Secret Friends Unite Patreon. Patreon.com/Secret Friends Unites, exclusive shows, early shows like this one. We generally push this out on a Saturday or a Sunday, where the rest of the world gets it on a Monday. So, hey, 24 hours of extra trekking for you. No ad shows, Discord benefits like a special channel over on our Discords for as little as, get this, it's 3-pronged. It's free for 7 days. 50% off your first month, and then as little as $2 a month launching forward. That is wild. I love it, and you don't want to be missing out. These folks know the deal. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, Francie, who does my wife's hair, Luke Lore, Mr. Xbox Expansion Pass, and my uncle Tim Horan down there in South Haven, Michigan. Also, John Sedorf, Brendan Myers, Corey HD, Matthew Keel, my buddy Kurt Krug. We got to spend some time together at Motor City Comic Con last weekend, so it was good to hang out with him and look through comic bins and meet various people, set up new interviews for our Patreon. Tanya, our friend Tanya Lee. Chipotle Bear, famous Seamus, and then we're getting into our as yet to be get their special privilege, J. Newport 007. We're going to circle back to that name in a second. Cam the Movie Man and Brian Osserman, a.k.a. Darth Prozac. Okay, back to J. Newport 007. You are now getting your Star Trek race and job. Peter, I'll let you go first because, you know, I'm an off-the-cuff kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think. So, Newport.
Well, I'm going to go based on the username. The last 3 digits, I suppose. I am going to I'm going to first tell you your job, and then I'm going to tell you your race.
Walk backwards.
A little bit of backwards. So, they're going to tie together. So, your job is you're going to be an agent of Section 31. So, the classic Section 31. And your race is going to be Changeling. So Founder.
Oh, goodness. Ooh.
So this is obviously later in the timeline.
That would be a very interesting twist. Well, with Newport, Oh my goodness. Worf, is that you?
Worf is here.
Worf is here. Remind me to put my phone on airplane mode. Wink, wink. But I'm gonna say, when I think Newport, I think amphibian. I think that Jay Newport is he's an not an aqua lish because that's Star Wars, but I'm drawing a blank on the name of the race. It's from TAS, which is appropriate because that's what we're talking about. But he is one of those guys, but he is a professional yachter. He's a yacht rock guy that even though he's a fishman, he's getting around in a boat. And I'm drawing a blank on the episode.
Let me see if I can find it.
But Peter is using the Marvel the thing we call Memory Alpha, I'm assuming, and we'll have that up quite quickly. But while he does that, I will also say the awesome, nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, we are very grateful for everything that you do for us. All right, final answer, Peter. What is it?
It's not pulling up.
Oh, my gosh.
My goodness.
It will continue to be a mystery. I might have to drop that in the...
we'll find it at some point.
Socials, yeah. So, again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, hey, we've got it. All right.
They're literally aquans.
Aquans. He's an aquan schooner driver, yacht rocker. He's in the regatta of... what's the planet? Aqualon 2 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
There you go, Aqualon 2. Way to go. Congratulations. Again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. 7 days for free, half off your first month, and as little as $2 a month to go forward. All right. Well, it was very big news, and this happened, I feel like, the week that we put our last episode out, but Strange New Worlds is actually releasing season 3. It's unbelievable. But yeah, our only Star Trek release, and when I say only, I feel like Section 31 didn't happen because you'll only hear it referred to on this show in a derisive fashion. Unless
it joins the annals, but in a worse way of the finale that shall not be named.
You're right. It actually is much worse than that thing that you said that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah, this thing that doesn't exist, that somehow words were spoken and I don't remember.
Right. But so we're going to get this on July 17th on Paramount Plus. I was privileged enough to be sent from the good folks at CBS Studios /Paramount/Viacom, supporters of our program, screeners of the first 5 episodes, which I got earlier this week. I did watch the first one, and while, of course, I will give no resounding details, you know, of course, that it is a resolution to the cliffhanger that ended season 2 almost 2 years ago, which is just like, that's a long gap in Star Trek between actual seasons of a show.
I mean, TNG with Best of Both Worlds, you only had 4 months?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way it was because that show was on continuously. But even with this, I think Discovery had some kind of longer gap, I think, because of something or other. I can't remember, but it wasn't this long.
Yeah.
So they wrapped it up in a way that I think was very faithful to the characters, had some nice character development. And it's something that will be very enjoyable, but 5 episodes and it doesn't air for another 6 weeks. So I probably will really be parceling those out. So you won't hear too much from me about that, but I'm very excited. It's good to have this. This is our last release. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot the other news story, which was not listed when I went back there, but I'll throw it in there. We had kind of a good news, bad news thing, but the bad news is, Peter, grab me if I talked about this last time, is that Star Trek Prodigy is going away again.
We didn't talk about this last time.
Yeah, Star Trek Prodigy is being, and I don't have a link, but we can just riff about it. It's going away because, Netflix is letting it go as of the end of 2025. And I know that both you and I purchased it. I have it digitally. You have the hard copies.
Yep.
And so the fate of the show is uncertain. It did escape. It didn't really escape cancellation in so much that the second season was already completed. Netflix just dumped it all. And I think it was it on January 1 of this year of 2025? I think it was.
I don't think it was January 1. It was a little bit after. I think it was a little before that.
Okay. Maybe it was,
I'd have to double check.
Was it last summer? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because in the fall, I think it was towards the winter, because in the fall we had the French quick release. So
it's awful. It's awful because it was a wonderful program. 40 segments out there. Watch it now. But again, if you're a Trekker and you enjoyed it, now is the time to buy it.
Yep.
because it could end up being the only, it could disappear. At
It
some
could
point, you might
it
not
could
be able
go
to
the
find
way
it.
of multiple different. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
internet. Things don't vanish forever anymore, but
Right.
it will be next to impossible to get unless they make a concerted effort to make it available.
Right.
For
And
physical
then
or digital purchase.
there are subsequent talks of another animated program being on the line. I know I shared.
I have heard rumbles of that.
Yeah, I shared an article on our Discord, and again, our Discord is definitely a place you want to tune into for all of our latest news findings. But yeah, that's very sad for Prodigy. It was a great program, and I know in the future when we talk about Prodigy, Ellie Littlechild from Trek Culture has been our guest a couple of times now. She loves that show, and I'd love to have her back on to get her thoughts because I'm sure she's quite despondent about this. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed for the show coming on back. All right, well, let's jump into the first part of the show, our random sode. If you've been listening in the past, you know that through the ourselves and people who listen to our show and other friends of ours in the podcast world and social media world, we do a random selection of an episode by rolling a virtual die. And this episode was chosen by my friend Joe Colton. I know Joe from from social media. I know her from the Star Trek cruise, and she actually hosted an interview with me with Ron Rudat, the guy who designed all the G.I. Joe vehicles and toys that are behind me several months ago. We wanted to get Joe on the show to do this with us, but we're recording this on Memorial Day weekend, so timing was just a little too tight to have anybody on but the two of us. So regardless, Joe, thank you for your contribution. I will make sure that I hand deliver electronically this episode to you so that you can enjoy and get your accolades. But the episode in question is, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, Star Trek The Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 4, Albatross. Albatross. Oh, it looked like it was a little weird spelling, but I'm like, no, I definitely pulled that, and it is correct. Summary. Following a mission to the planet Dramia, Dr. McCoy is held prisoner, accused of a mass genocide caused by a deadly plague committed by him 19 years earlier during a previous expedition. When the Enterprise attempts to investigate, it too becomes infected. Credits. This was written by Dario Fellini. Sounds like a mob boss. Sorry, that's just kind of a weird name. I had a boss with that last name once. It was a woman, and she wasn't a mob boss. But I'm like, Dario Fellini.
That you know of.
Oh, that I know of. Yes, exactly. Directed by Bill Reed. And again, I don't really know either of those names. But let's jump into it. I did pull up the page just to give you some context. This first aired, and again, it's kind of a Saturday morning cartoon vibe, on September 29, in 1974. It's just a month before my brother was born, so it was a very, very long time ago. But yeah, that's it. So let's jump on in, and we'll get to talking about it. So Peter, tell me, set the stage. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so basically we get kind of this. It's not really a first contact. It's just kind of like a diplomatic visit, I think, is the vibe that you get at the beginning of the story, and then they're just kind of hanging out, and then it's like, oh, hey, Captain Kirk, you've had this big old tour, and we're going to sign this treaty. And oh, by the way, here's an arrest warrant for Dr. McCoy. It's like, wait, what?
Fuck. I know. And I did note that the head, I did write Dramia sounds like Dramamine, which is funny to me. Since they're delivering medical supplies, I thought that was, I wonder if somebody was a little hee. But
I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah.
Their head guy is the Supreme Prefect, which kind of reminds me of the Pac Leds and the guys with the big head.
Yeah. The culture very much felt kind of like that.
But
they're like, our justice is super swift.
Yeah, and I love that they come in and said, hey, I love that. And Kirk and Spock and McCoy all look at this scroll that has all the charges listed on it, and it's like this tall, which I thought was hilarious. But I was like, okay, McCoy committed a genocide in the past, and the Federation signed off on it without any kind of legal Federation procedure. So we're off to the races, and none of this is making any sense.
None of it makes any sense. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we're going to have a trial. And it's like, well, can the Enterprise help with the investigation? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Captain, you're becoming emotional, because Kirk he's getting pissed. So you're going to have a kangaroo court, or a drumhead, he should have said.
He calls it a kangaroo, yeah. But exactly. It is kind of a drum. But it's just, it's so ridiculous. And then and then eventually, like, they leave. McCoy's like, "No, I'll go to jail. I'll face my charges." Like, okay,
right, okay. And he doesn't really say anything more about
he doesn't really
what
say
that's
like
all about.
he just kind of like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's like McCoy just acquiescing to the fact that someone accused him of genocide and not being like super acerbic and insulted about it,
or just even talking about like the circumstance. The Dramians, I ended up misspelling this about 50 different ways in my notes. I think they're kind of dicks. I think maybe they need Xanax more than they need Dramamine, because Dramamine keeps you from, isn't it? Keep you from getting like seasick, isn't that what
Dramamine is for motion sickness.
Yeah, motion sickness, exactly. So yeah, you're right. They leave there like, well, we've got to go find out what happened, because it wasn't on this Dramian planet, it was on this other one, and so we have to fly the ship over there. And they're talking. Yeah, they have a very typical kind of exposition scene between Kirk and Spock on the bridge, where Spock's like, well, when McCoy was there, he this thing and that thing, and then blah blah blah. And the only thing I really noticed is that Kirk is standing over his shoulder. And then they flash back, and all of a sudden, Kirk is sitting in his chair with that. Ooh, I moved that fast. Yeah,
the wonderfulness of reusing frames from previous episodes.
Absolutely. So he does mention in his exposition dump that the Vulcans are immune to the plague that McCoy caused, but immediately when they get to the planet, and we're jumping over some stuff we'll go back on, everybody beams down. So it's like, okay. So
why not send the one person who's immune instead of everybody?
Yeah, it's like they did with Data. Like they'd always send Data into dangerous situations on TNG because he doesn't need to breathe, or he doesn't.
Yeah, which one of those episodes actually is coming up?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I wrote that the Dramian ship looks like one of their weird heads, which I think is hilarious.
It kind of does. It also looks like a really, really crappy Hot Wheels. So.
That could be another great name for this episode.
I thought it was really funny how it's like, oh, we've got a tail. He's probably going to try to sneak on board with our open hangar bay. Our hangar bay is not open, Captain. Oh, is it now? Okay, Lieutenant, could you correct that oversight? And you see the hangar bay open, and the guy's like, nah, and just flies right in. And it's like, and then he walks into the ship. Kirk and Spock are like, you are a stowaway. Oh, I've been trapped, man.
I did notice in this scene, and then again later, the Dramian's weapon kind of looks like an old timey hairdryer. So it looks like something that your grandma had back in the day. It's at this point I did notice that Kirk had an odd smudge in his uniform, like near his armpit by his Delta patch. So I'm like a pit stain. Like I thought the uniforms came out of or they had laundry on the ship anyway. So I thought that was weird. Obviously, it was a smudge on the animation, but still.
It's still funny. Yeah.
I love seeing Arex on the bridge. I want him to be canon already. I feel like maybe he is, but I don't really know how or why. I'd have to kind of dig into it. But he doesn't have any lines, but he's just kind of hanging out there. We don't have Maress in this episode either, because Maress, who's the Cation, swaps out for Uhura at communications in some episodes, where Arex is always at navigation, because Chekhov is not in this series at all, because they couldn't, it was really kind of sad, they couldn't afford to have Walter Koenig be a part of the cast.
They couldn't afford to have everybody, and so they picked him to be the one that they dropped.
He got to be, because he was the ensign. What do you want? Yeah. So I said I thought the Vulcans were immune, but Kirk, and there's another dude down there as well. So I'm like, so they're down there. They get chased into a cave. There's kind of a weird fight scene. And the only thing that the plague does is turn the Dramians blue, because this guy's blue. Or that happens once they get back to the ship. Yeah. But then Kirk turns blue, and that means he's sick. And now everybody on the ship is turning blue except for Spock. And when you turn blue, you have 24 hours to live. Just like, boom, being blue is going to kill you.
Even Arctics turns blue.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's funny, by the time time has gone by, obviously 24 hours hasn't passed, they're en route back to the first planet. And the plan is to make sure that the ship remains under quarantine. And again, this reminds, I'll wrap up in the end with what TNG episode this reminds me of. They're going to blow the ship up to prevent a leak of quarantine, which is, you know what, it
is a method. It is an effective method, but it is a final method.
But Spock sciences this shit and solves it. And it was funny. I was watching this last night with April, and she said Nimoy's voice is like really odd, like he's really working hard to do his lines, where when D. Kelly's talking, he just sounds normal. You know what I mean? So that's weird. I mean, maybe I can't really necessarily.
It could have just been that Nimoy wasn't used to the idea of voice acting at that point, because voice acting and like film acting are very different. Not like the things that you have to do, but the fact that you're not interacting with someone, and the fact that like,
right,
yeah, there aren't things around for you to interact with to kind of play off of. So it's just like you have to put everything in your head.
Right. So in the end of it, they find an antidote. McCoy is cleared, and then the Dromians have a parade for McCoy, like an honorarium, something like that. That's pretty random. Random. Yeah. And then the parting two things to part with. And again, this when we circle back to the fun facts that I have on this, in the last scene at the transporter when they're all beaming up, Scotty is standing there, and there's a really notable costume error, which is noted back there. But the one that wasn't noted, or I didn't pick up on, is that as they're standing in the shot looking over Scotty's shoulder, McCoy's uniform is gold, and when they switch back to another shot, it's its regular blue color. I'm like, oh my God, that was nuts. And then Kirk has this absolutely, you probably don't know, but about 10 years after this, they produced the He-Man cartoon, which was very big to me when I was a kid. He-Man always had this laugh where he would just go, ah, ha, ha, put his head back. And it was pretty much on par.
And this was the...
Yeah.
We had the famous Kirk meme in this episode. Exactly
correct. So
probably not the only time it's appeared, but this is one of them.
Exactly. So to wrap up, this was like a 2 out of 10 for me. It was the plot holes were massively wide. The story doesn't add up to much. Nothing between like the Federation just saying, all right, you can take him, and then they don't send a defender or anything. And then at the end of it, they're just like, well, my bad, let's have a parade. And it's just none of it makes any sense. I think they were really counting on the fact that this was a Saturday morning cartoon for kids, and the kids wouldn't pick up on that. But we are Trekkers, we don't miss things. So I feel like definitely parts of the Contagion bit were better done in season 2's of TNG, Unnatural Selection with Dr. Pulaski and the ship, the ship that I'm forgetting was the Miranda class ship they had to blow up. So yeah. So all right. Final thoughts for you before I fun fact it.
It's such a strange episode. I mean, there is something there with like, hey, you Dramian dum-dums, don't just accuse someone of genocide without like actual evidence.
Show me your genocide.
Yeah. So there was something going on there, but it was handled with like the grace of a concrete shoed crocodile. And it wasn't great. And it didn't really like come to any sort of like conclusion in terms of like any moral of the story, as it were. Right. It was just like, we solved the problem.
Yeah, there was no lesson to be learned. I did mention obviously the production inconsistency with McCoy's uniform, but also Scotty has an extra stripe on his uniform, so he gets to be a captain for one shot. Star Trek Files magazine, John Peel's critique, this has to be the most simplistic and childish of all episodes ever written for the animated series. The aurora causing the disease was obvious to anyone who spotted it. Yeah, because they had the little sparkles. We didn't mention that. Sorry, we glossed over that. And the fact that no one ever thought of it as staggering. The entire crew of the Enterprise must have had brain rot or something. The cure is equally obvious once the fact that Kaladi is the only survivor given and was treated for Saurian virus, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. He goes on and just does not have anything.
It's super obvious.
Yeah. And what's weird is that this was novelized in Alan Dean Foster's famous Star Trek logs, number 6, which came out in 1976.
Which probably made it a little bit better because you could do a little bit more, but I haven't read it, so I don't know.
I have owned some of those at various points, and I don't know how different they were than the episodes, but I'm curious now. So I would almost say at some point you and I should like read one or two of them books and then like do a segment on them, because that'd be kind of interesting.
I have one of the ones that has some of the TOS novelizations.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. I don't think I have any of the TAS ones. I'd have to look. But
or it sounds like these all got limited. Oh, did I get your rating? What did you call it? I gave it 2. Are you going to give it more? Or are you going to give it less?
Yeah, probably a 2.5 for the attempt.
For the attempt. That's not something you want to hear at the Olympics. That's
no.
Oh my. Oh, all right. Well, we will be back. We have some surprises coming up for segment 1 in the next couple of episodes. We have two guests. One's very special and one is sort of special. But I don't want to reveal that in case the scheduling part of it doesn't work out. But we've got some cool stuff coming up in segment 1 before we get into not only the end of TNG, but we're also going to talk about the very end of TNG in a documentary that was produced at the time the Blu-rays came out, which was about 10 years ago. So you have that to look forward to before we get into talking about the final season of Deep Space Nine, which is going to be tough. That was one of the absolute best seasons of any Star Trek. So I'm really looking forward to that, as opposed to what we're going to be talking about right now, which is part 3 of 4 of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 7, kicking off in January of 1994. And I'll get the party started with it is widely given to be the most reviled segment of any Star Trek in its now nearly 60 years of history. I'm talking about episode 14 of the season, which is Sub Rosa. And this hurts even more. It's directed by Jonathan Frakes. Jonathan Frakes, who's been on this
Jerry
very program.
Taylor did the story, and Brandon Braga did the teleplay. Like, why?
I mean, Jerry Taylor, co-creator of Star Trek Voyager, Brandon Braga, the writer of some of the finest segments of Star Trek produced. Jerry has the same credit. Jonathan Frakes, who continues to be the absolute actor favorite director of anyone who's ever worked. How did they create this episode? January of 1994, Dr. Crusher attends her grandmother's funeral and finds out that her house is inhabited by a spirit who is 800 years old and was her grandmother's lover. Peter, I don't even want to get into this. This has been sent up in, you know how they say that Gowron has been in 11 billion memes out there? Mm-hmm. It's rivaled with people making fun of this episode.
Absolutely.
I just don't understand. And I feel like the next time we have a conversation with Dr. Trek, Larry Demachek, I need to get his take on this.
I'm
afraid to ask Frakes about it because I wouldn't want to upset him. No. You know what I mean? But there's just no part of this, I mean, and again, it's symptomatic of something that's been happening for a lot of the season, is that the series was just starting to run out of gas. And that was a quote that came from Ron Moore in something that I read recently, is that, the show ending with season 6 could have absolutely been a good thing. I don't feel like any of the other series, we had 2 other series that went to a 7-season run. DS9, which we were just talking about, was exceptional.
Pretty solid
in season 7.
Season 7 of Voyager stumbled, but not nearly as badly as TNG.
And again, it's really tough because you're looking at these characters that we love, and this series that set Trek into motion for the modern era as TNG gets further away in years, and this does as well, but arguably things that we're watching now owe things back to TNG. But yeah, stumbling and falling off a cliff are 2 very different things. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to beat the dead horse with Sub Rosa. Everybody said it, but
yeah, everyone's talked about the bad Scottish accents. Everyone's talked about the really, really bizarre erotic scenes that are, they're still PG because it's television in the 90s, but they're still just uncomfortably bizarre. I
mean, they just never got romance right for poor Dr. Crusher, and this couldn't have been more wrong. The actor Duncan Rager, who is playing the Ghost, went on to be Shakar in DS9. Don't know if you picked up on that. You probably did, but which was a great role. You
can't It's not a lack of acting ability amongst anyone. It's just it was a perfect storm of just
a pun intended, because that was a big part of this.
That was a big part of it. Is their weather system wasn't working.
Yeah, exactly. So all right, let's do ourselves the favor of moving on to what I think is a much superior episode that actually spawned the name of an entire series. Peter, it's all yours.
All right, episode 15 is Lower Decks, directed by Gabrielle Beaumont, story by Ronald Wilkerson and Jean-Louis Matthias, teleplay by Renee Echevarria, aired February 7th of 94. Junior officers buck for promotion as one of them is assigned the dangerous task of helping a Cardassian spy 3/4 of the way through the episode.
Right, exactly. with in the first half of the episode a decent amount of the have and have nots, because you're seeing what really Star Trek Lower Decks the series really emphasized is that yes, we have our 7 guys who are set up on the bridge every day in Georgie Stone Engineering, and then you've got everybody else, who they live in bunk beds, and they do he's the relief.
They do the not fun stuff.
Yeah, he's the relief con officer, or he has to clean the holodeck, or he has to do crappy jobs here and there. But this really set the table. It also fleshed out the character of Alyssa Ogawa. Alyssa Ogawa, the recent Patty Yadisuki, who recently, and I apologize for mispronouncing her name, who recently passed away. We got to see quite a bit more about her character,
which was fun. Really.
Yeah, definitely fun.
And then we got to see Ensign Sito returning from first duty.
Yeah.
So that was one of those moments where Star Trek did like some really interesting continuity, like callbacks, because that doesn't happen a lot.
No, not
at least not in like TNG and Deep Space Nine, but like this is one of those really effective ways, especially with like 3/4 of the way through the episode where it's like she finally stands up for herself to Captain Picard, and then like, if you didn't want me on the ship, well then blah, blah, blah. And then as she's leaving, he's like, I do know why you're on the Enterprise. I asked for you because I wanted to give you a second chance.
Oh, I know.
And that's such a really cool moment, especially after the whole bit where you're like, why is Picard being such an asshole? And
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's taking a little too hard. But it wraps up in really some intrigue that lends itself back to DS9, because you're touching on, Cardassian intrigue, because her assignment is to deliver basically a Federation agent who is Cardassian back into the hands of the Cardassian people so he can continue to be
it's unclear if that's successful or not at the end. Yeah.
It is really unclear. And of course, fan fiction and things said, well, they faked her death so they could, keep her. And then, it's kind of like a Tom Riker thing. Is he going to show up again someday? But as it were, as canon stands, she really did. She, died in service of her mission. And it's interesting. The Vulcan character is Jerry Ryan's son. His name is Alexander Enberg, if I'm not mistaken. He was a guest at some con that I attended recently. But his name is Torek, and then he plays a Vulcan character named Vorik, who is a recurring character on Voyager. Or are they related? I think they could be cousins. I'm saying
they could be related to my Star Trek Online Vulcan named Sorik. I don't know.
Sorik with an S-O-R-K. Yeah, triplets or cousins. Hopefully your guy wears a red uniform so you get all the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah.
No,
well, he's in command. So
there you go. Well, there you go. I like it. There was in the beta canon or non-canonical novel series, Tales of the Dominion War, whatever it is. You find out that Vorik and I'm going to draw a blank on the young man who actually gets promotion at the end. Sam something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That they end up as Dominion prisoners in a camp and they work their way free or something. So I remember reading that novel. So they have a beta.
Sam Lavelle.
There you go. They have a beta history future, but we don't, with the exception of Ogawa, we don't see any of these characters.
We do know that Lavelle proposes to Ogawa later.
No, Andrew,
or is this a different character?
Powell.
Andrew, right, different character. For whatever reason, they crossed in my brain.
We never end up meeting him, although you do see him in the All Good Things scenes where she has a baby, loses a baby.
Yep.
And then, so she does have a baby. But when she loses the baby, you see him holding her hand while she's convalescing or whatever it is, but he doesn't speak. So, and then we have another civilian bartender named Ben, who's kind of like, he's a civilian. So he's kind of like, he's the cool guy, but he plays both sides of it. So he's pals with Riker in the group, but he's also pal with Lavelle's in that group. So I thought this was a great episode. This was definitely already in the running to be, best of the batch. But, oh my God, just scrolling to the next screen, I'm like, I feel like, to be honest with you, we could really shoot through these pretty quickly, but we should give every episode its due. We really, that is our mission. So episode 16 is Thine Own Self. Winrich Colby doing the directing with a story from Christopher Hatton and a teleplay by Ron Moore. So saving grace to some regard. From February of 94, Data loses his memory after retrieving radioactive fragments on a planet's surface and endangers the humanoid settlement he encounters while Deanna studies to become a bridge officer, which is just like, let's find a story for Troy this week. It was very random.
But this one is actually a decent B plot for her, I think.
Okay. I agree with you because, again, one of the enduring criticisms, which we saw, pardon the expression, very nakedly a couple of episodes back in regards to Beverly, was the fact that these two female characters never got to break out of, they're like, I'm the counselor and I'm the doctor and blah, blah. It's very blinders on. And again, I've listened to podcast discussions and I've listened to people's opinions about that kind of thing. And it's a recurrent theme. So yes, it is. And there's a great last line to this episode when she's having an exchange with Data, but this is very, I mean, I wouldn't say I also wouldn't say I really disliked this episode. I thought it was kind of neat.
I thought that this episode was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so. I liked it. So yeah, kind of Data without a memory, and then he's in a village of primitives. It's very it's
late medieval, early Renaissance.
Yeah, exactly. So and people are even dressed that way with the big pantaloons and the big hats. But yeah, he's carrying around this fragment of I think he was retrieving a torpedo,
a crashed probe. Yeah,
but then he somehow also crashes his shuttlecraft, and I'm like, come on, Data. I mean, it's obviously something, but we don't see any of that. All we see is him walk on the screen.
They kind of imply that there's something about the planet that caused an issue with the probe, then also caused an issue with the shuttle. So
right, all right, I guess. But Data only walks up and he's got a rip in his shirt and his hair's messed up, which is always funny to see Data with his hair amiss since it's just a shell. So that's cool. So he kind of walks through. But I mean, a lot of it is kind of paint by numbers. He befriends a little girl. She becomes his advocate. There's the one guy in town who's a crook and a bigot, and they attack him, and then they think that he's
poisoning everyone.
He's poisoning everyone. You have kind of the village witch doctor who said, "Oh, you're an ice monster," and fire is one of the elements, and it resides inside rocks. I mean, it's just they're very, very backwards. So it's interesting. But even Data was like, he's listening to her lecture. He's like, that's kind of bullshit is what you're saying right there. Like, he still has his intelligence. He just can't. He has very selective memory.
He doesn't remember who he is, but he remembers a lot of stuff.
You're right. Yeah. He doesn't remember who he is or where he came from or anything about his past.
It is interesting how, like, one thing that kind of stuck out to me a little bit was this is one of Ron Moore's forays into religion a little bit. I wouldn't call it one of his screeds because it's not.
Yeah.
That happens more in Battlestar.
Yeah.
But this is definitely it's subtle, but it's a negative take on that period of history. Now it's a fictional culture, so it's not necessarily like 1-to-1.
Right.
But you do see some stuff where he does note that, like, the doctor, like, when Data starts showing her stuff, like, she protests, but she does warm up to it and she does start to listen to what Data is saying. So it's not like that they don't do science and that they don't have smart people. It's just that there are everyone else who just doesn't pay attention and just, goes to, it's you're a bad omen and whatever.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was an interesting note. But it is the one scene that I thought was kind of fun was when he was showing the radiation, because you saw the light bulb go on for her with that, and with the I'm not even sure how it would work, but the microscope thing, right? Because it's like those are not aligned. That would not work very well. But
the science was not sciencing in the correct direction.
No, but like Deanna's bit, like her whole thing was like the fact that she was like, you got all the diplomatic, you got like all this, you got everything right except this last bit, and the thing that was hanging her up was the thing that, like, would hang anyone up, right?
Yeah, right.
You have to order one of your friends to die to save the ship.
You're in a, albeit a Kobayashi Maru situation. Yeah. And in some elements, it's the impossible decision. But
it's like they took like that. If you've seen the submarine film K-19, they took like that whole situation, condensed it into a holodeck, and it was like, here, Deanna, what do you do? And you had to make the same decision of, like, you know how to do this. You're going to have to fix it, or we're all going to die. Right. You're going to die, but there's nothing we can do.
Right.
So it's kind of a needs of the many, but chosen by the commanding officer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
And she does finally figure it out, even though, Riker he's the evaluator and he's discouraging her from continuing to go. But then she finally gets it and it's great. And she gets her last promotion. And let's not forget, at the end, Data returns and says, have you gotten a promotion in my absence? She says, yes. So now you can just call me sir. And I'm like, part of that I don't really love because Data never gets a promotion, and then he's the only one of the crew who dies of the whole group of them, and comes back twice. And his status is kind of unconfirmed as of the end of Picard, if he's even in Starfleet anymore. But he's the only person besides Troy, who's not a flag officer at the end of the show. Well, Riker is still a command captain or above. Because
Worf and Riker are still.
Yeah, they're still captains, but Data's like,
it's so strange.
He's just a weird civilian or something. So, all right. This next one's you know what? I'm going to take this one simply because the date is significant. Episode 17 is masks. And frankly, the subject matter is more fun when tackled by Lower Decks because they did a bit about this. Robert Weimer is doing the director. Joe Menosky wrote this. And again, it's going right back to Sub Rosa. It's just we got 26 segments in a season, and it's like I can't think of something to do, so I come up with this. So
yeah, I mean, this is not the same dip as Sub Rosa, but
and the reason I made is February 21, 94 was the week of that was 2 days before my 18th birthday. So that's Yeah, big deal. The Enterprise finds an ancient library that recreates its civilization by taking possession of data, and transforming the ship. Yeah, I don't know any of the details of this. It's a bunch of Masaka this and Shaka Zulu, and we turned something into an aqueduct, and then this is the temple, and so it just, oh my God. It's not quite Vertiform City, which we're coming up on in the next block. But oh my God, I'd rather listen to Data and Geordi talk about training Spot's cat again than anything that happens in this episode. Just what was going on?
I don't know. I think I was trying to understand what the whole point of this episode was, because the beginning is like creativity in art, right? And so the through line is like trying to assess meaning from meaningless symbols,
right?
In the sense like this culture clearly uses like some sort of like hieroglyphic sort of symbology.
Right. Yeah, the sun means this thing, but if the sun's over here, it means something else. That kind of deal.
Yeah. So and then you have like Corgano with the moon, and they have to isolate it, and eventually they figure it out. But like, I mean, there was a couple fun elements when Data was possessed by whatever one of the characters and hammed it up a little bit, like he's sitting on the dilithium chamber. Like that was kind of funny.
He was like, and he's doing one of
Captain. I'm like he was just doing all this ridiculous stuff.
Brent Spiner's great voices.
Yeah, so like
such a talented guy.
Yeah, it allowed Brent Spiner to show off some of his acting ability, which was kind of fun.
Yeah,
but the rest of it is just like, why? Like it. So, when I was younger, what this episode got turned around in my head with the what was it? The Pomerian cruiser, the one that they had to destroy eventually because it was a booby trap. Yeah, this one got switched in my head with booby trap because it's very, very similar in the sense like you find something where it doesn't make sense and then it starts wreaking havoc on the ship.
Right.
But it's like it feels like it takes them way too long to figure this out.
Right.
Because it's like it's a simple sun moon juxtaposition.
Right.
Cool. Why did that take so long?
Because the episodes are 44 minutes and 38 seconds long. And it's like I said, we could just call this episode, hey, it's content.
Yeah, there was a book that I read that was a TNG book that's also called Masks that's set during like season 2.
Okay.
That's actually an interesting story because it's a culture that uses masks to denote like social status and
Sure.
role and all of that. That's actually a clever story with masks.
Feel like if I haven't read it, I'm definitely familiar with it. And I have that big book that has all the TNG now, or like all of the Trek novels up to that point, and it has a little blurb about them.
Yeah, I have the book right over there.
Yeah, I should dust it off and look, because now I'm curious. But yeah, so why don't you grab number 18 and you can tell me if you think this is an improvement.
Episode 18, Eye of the Beholder. No, not the giant flying eyeball with other eyeballs with teeth from D&D. This is just a reference. So directed by Cliff Bull, story by Brandon Braga, teleplay by Renee Echeverria.
How are they doing it?
Aired in February 28th of 94. It's like, we got a stellar team.
I say it with respect because Bull, Braga, Echeverria, Minoski, Moore,
Braga,
Jerry Taylor. How did you guys do this? And I don't mean that I with respect. I don't mean that with respect.
It just doesn't make sense.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so synopsis. Deanna investigates the suicide of a crewman and uncovers a murder that took place during the construction of the Enterprise. So the beginning of the episode, we get a guy, the one thing about this episode is we get a cool new set from the inside of a nacelle.
Absolutely. One that it spawned something similar in Enterprise, the catwalk, which they did episodes around. And I thought that was cool because you never knew, what's the deal with the nacelles? Is there... but if you look at your map, blueprints of the Enterprise, which I do, you see at the at the back of the cell, right below it, you see 3 windows, and that's where this episode took place. So it was at the back of the cell looking forward, which that alone is very cool. I absolutely agree with you.
It's the set is really neat.
Right. And then
the rest of it
in 3 different times during the episode, but
we've got the whole thing is you see this guy die, and so they investigate this apparent suicide.
Right.
And then in the end of the episode you find out that it's not even him that was the one that's causing all of this. It was a guy who did murder suicide when the ship was being built.
Interestingly, that is actor Mark Ralston, who we will be interviewing on the Spotlight in a few weeks. Very cool. And we will probably not talk that much about this episode.
We might maybe mention it, but
we'll probably keep our focus talking about his work in movies like Aliens, but we'll see. Yeah, so very cool. But this also really leans into the very regrettable. Nobody liked it. The actors didn't like it.
Oh gosh,
the fans didn't like it.
Yeah,
give us a fully fleshed out Worf and Troy hookup.
I think this is the episode where it's just the weirdest. I mean, this episode is just weird anyway, but this is where it's just they lean into it too much as a plot point because it's part of the hallucination.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's just so off-putting.
And we kind of get, a little teases of it between now and the end of the series. And then of course it's what opens the finale.
It's implied as this has been a thing for a while at the beginning.
Right. Or they're just taking it very slow and then they're going to have a kiss in the finale and it doesn't end up happening, blah, blah, blah. But you're right. They make it because the whole thing is that Pierce, who's Mark Ralston, who again, we're going to be speaking to in a few weeks, is partially empathic and he murders 2 crewmen working on the Enterprise 7 years ago at Utopia Planitia, and their organic residue gets splattered all over, and because he's psychic, it creates a resonance that makes anybody who gets too close to it experience a hallucination that makes them take their own life. I mean, it was reaching and reaching and reaching and some more reaching and a little bit more reaching. And hey, look, Worf and Troy did it, but we're still reaching. And
it felt like that there was an idea here that could have been interesting, which I think they actually explore better in Voyager. I can't remember the episode, but I think they do.
Was that the episode Remember, where it was they visit a planet and it's a very old woman and she touches B'Elanna and then infects B'Elanna with her youth.
It might be that one, yeah.
It was, her boyfriend was part of the Hitler Youth or whatever it is on that planet, and who was just, holding people up against the wall and shooting them. And then through that, B'Elanna was able to tell this story that had been covered up for decades.
Yeah, or even it not the greatest episode, but like where Paris is implanted with memories of the guy he killed for no reason.
Which is what we talked about that fairly recently
a couple weeks ago. So,
yeah, exactly.
But like. So this trope has been done, and it's been done better later.
Yeah.
But this was just like a really, like the root concept is an interesting one.
Right.
But how it plays out and the exact hallucination that we used, and like the whole idea of like, oh, well, the stakes are Troy's now going to jump in front of a plasma stream.
Okay.
Like Troy is like, we kind of had to lean into like Troy being like overly emotional and not thinking. And then you have characters that are not acting like themselves. Like, oh, well, Worf's going to be like interested and then two-timing at the same time. And that's not in character with Worf. That should have tipped her off. And I mean, obviously it's a hallucination. Things are jumbled and weird, but it's just, some of it's just too much. And the suspense of disbelief, I think, is part of what makes this episode just bizarre. Is that Troy's smarter than this,
right? So. Yeah. So it's dumbing it down. So all right. Well, we get into the last couple of episodes. Which, to be honest with you, I think I was talking to you when I was watching this a few days ago. I kind of come around on it because I like the fact that they took a big swing with this episode. That is episode 19, which is Genesis. No Phil Collins. No great. Ronald Reagan is a puppet in that great video. Now I'm drawing a blank. It's one of their biggest hits. Why am I drawing a blank?
I don't remember that one.
This is the do. Oh, it's the Land of Confusion. Look up Land of Confusion. It's a fun video where they basically have a Muppet version of Ronald Reagan being Superman and trying to run around and save everything. And then everybody in the band is a Muppet. Trust me, it's worth your time.
That sounds like a stitch.
It was, you got to go check it out. But anyway, Genesis. This was directed by Gates McFadden, which I thought was great. But there was a super obvious part where they kind of got her out of the plot so she could do her job in a way that's pretty dumb. Brandon Braga wrote this one. So again, it's it's an interesting script. It's kind of a fun script, and it's something different. This is from March of '94. A routine medical treatment inadvertently creates a virus that begins to de-evolve the Enterprise crew while Picard and Data are away on a mission. So let's look at the elements of this. Our cold open, Barclay's back, being Barclay, very hypochondriac. Yep. You also get Riker in there talking about a date he's on where he sat on some spikes or something. So I'm like, oh, Riker, that
was pretty fun. But I mean, Barclay is just hilarious every time he's here.
I know it. So, the plot of it gets to be the B plot of why Picard and Data run off on a away mission to chase a torpedo.
It doesn't
is really weird
because why would the captain would go for that
and Data, but obviously they need to get them off the ship so that the story can move forward because they're gone for like a day. I'm like, why would it take them a day to find a wandering torpedo or something? It's just that the setup just doesn't really click.
Yeah, the setup is weird.
So they come back, and then what you do get is a string of super cool creations by Michael Westmore, where you get to see the crew has kind of become different things. And again, we get a whole part of like while it's happening, like
Riker's brain is slowing down.
And Worf is increasingly more hostile, and he's eating like a caveman.
Troy's getting cold.
Troy can't stop drinking water and freezing. And Barclay's kind of squirreling around, and his eyes are all funky. And so a day or so goes by, and we do get a red shirt. Again, we get a red shirt, one of our few red shirts, who gets killed on the bridge. He's sitting at the con.
So we know there is at least one death in this episode. Could be more based on other things, but at least one.
And one crew member who turned into some kind of a snake because they come across a big snake skin. But they're walking around and figuring this deal out. Barclay is an engineering, and he's turned partially into a spider, but like a bipedal spider. And I think there's a still photo in Larry's book, in Larry's guide of of Barclay in his full uniform, even though it's black and white. It's really quite magnificent. I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah, it's an amazing prosthesis.
And yeah, the Worf got turned into this like big, heavily armored proto Klingon monster. Riker is a big caveman, which you just kind of expect. He's a big dude.
I think it's not even Jonathan Frakes. I think it's his stunt double that does it for that.
Is it
one.
really?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I remember reading that somewhere that it was his stunt double.
That would be a question we
in part to make him look very different.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. Troy turns into like a fish woman, and she's living in the hot tub in her quarters, and just like a lot of different shit going on. But the part about Gates that I mentioned, because again, Gates directed this episode, I think she did a fine job. Good use of lighting. Picard is an early devolution turning into a pygmy marmoset, which Data says, which I think is fantastic. Yeah. But when Worf is starting to have an issue, he gets this big like goiter on his face, and Beverly's like, Worf, you got a big thing. And he's not talking. She's like, Worf, open up your mouth. And he spits venom in her face, and she's screaming and has her hand over her face, writhing on the floor. He just runs away. And then in the next scene, this is where we do find out that Ogawa actually is pregnant, and that's
before this. Yeah, that's important to the plot.
It is, and Spot Data's cat is having babies as well, so it's a very very life affirming kind of thing because they're able to use her amniotic fluid to create a thing to change it around, blah blah blah. But she's writhing around on the floor, so Worf spit venom in her face, which should have paralyzed her, but they got her into stasis immediately, and she'll need reconstructive surgery. But you don't see her until the end of the episode, where she looks exactly the same. She's totally fine. But what that really did is knock her out for maybe a quarter of the show that she could obviously just focus on directing, and they didn't have to devolve her into something. But I just thought that was a little thin to be like, now she's out of the way. So, yeah, I think they took some big swings here, and particularly amongst this pack of episodes, which is a lot of people dump on season 1 of the show. But to be honest with you, watching it for the first time, having it be new Star Trek, being a new Star Trek fan, there are parts of it, season 1 that I find immensely fun and memorable. There's very little I find about this block that's fun or memorable. We're not even done yet.
It's memorable.
It's memorable.
Just not fun.
Oh my God. So so I think Gates did a great job. I'll give compliments to Brandon Braga because I think he took some big swings. It's very weird, which I think they needed some weird to break things up. So but episode 20, that one's yours. This is one that I really liked and wholly written by Ron Moore. So it's a return to form. Really liked it. So go ahead, please.
So episode 20 is Journey's End, directed by Corey Allen, written by Ronald D. Moore, aired on March 28th of 94. Wesley considers his future as the Enterprise is ordered to remove Native Americans from a planet that is about to fall under Cardassian jurisdiction. Another call over to what is currently happening on Deep Space Nine.
I love it. Yeah, it was probably right around the time the Maquis episode aired, or very close to it.
Very close to. And guest stars Richard Poe as Gul Evek, Will Wheaton returns as Wesley, Tom Jackson as LaCanta, and returning from, I think his last appearance was in season 4. Yeah. Eric Menyuk as the Traveler.
You bet. So we get Wesley coming onto the ship, and
major angst.
He's got more attitude than you can. I mean, like I said, I raised my son, and those were some tough years as a teenager. This is right in line with that.
Oh, I'm watching it and I'm just like cringing. I'm like, man, was I ever that bad? I was like,
he sasses Geordi. He's sassing his mom nonstop.
Sassing the captain is like,
he does now. At least when he's talking to the captain, he's making sense of not being, but he's really mean to Geordi. He's oversleeping. He's, just overall kind of being a pain in the butt. Because, and then, even Beverly says, because, Beverly or mom and dad, let's face it, Picard it's the only dad, really the only dad that Wesley ever had. So they're having a mom-dad chat. She's like, I talked to the commandant at the academy. He's slipping and he's being moody and he might fail out of school. And ultimately, you watch Wesley, and it was interesting because he was the character that, and again, the character has since returned and had a wonderful run in Prodigy, which has been sweet with the fate of that show, being what it might be. This was a character we got some actual resolution that kind of like just like with Jake Sisko, because remember Jake Sisko over on DS9, everybody, including his own father, thought, well, Jake's just going to follow in my footsteps. He'll be a Starfleet guy because that's what people do. And it took Jake, apprenticing with Chief O'Brien to finally say, Dad, I don't want to be in Starfleet. I'm not interested. And Wesley lived his entire life, he's this boy genius, and he's under all this expectations that he's going to follow in his father's footsteps, because that's what, as a small child, he just wanted to do. But he was living out, and he has this great vision in this Habak, seeing actor Doug Wirt in his final appearance as OG Jack Crusher, and the final appearance in the series of the Monster Maroon, although everything's very in shade, where his father appears to him and says, you've got to find your own path. Don't follow me. I don't need you to live my life, which that's a very real message that so many kids struggle with, because there are parents out there, who expect the kid to toe the line. And, my dad was a great example. We come from a small business, family business, that my grandfather and his brother ran during the war. My dad's cousin lit out, kind of started his own life with his new wife, and my dad stuck around, continued to work in the business. My grandfather took ill, and my dad took over, which is not what he always told me that he wanted to do. So when it rolled around to me and my brother, my dad, remembering this, never wanted to put that on us. You know what I mean? The same way that I could tell that if Jack Crusher was alive, he wouldn't want to put that on Wesley, but Wesley doesn't know that because his father's been dead for most of his life. So I found father and son stuff. And again, Ron Moore is the wizard at father and son stuff.
His stuff, really good job,
his stuff in Battlestar makes me weep on a regular basis. All the Bill and Lee Adama stuff. That's always been, that's a real hot button for me, in a good way, dramatically. So this was absolutely incredible. I love this episode. Ties back into the overall narrative, gives Wesley a pin to his story, and a lot of great moments for almost everybody. The only person he doesn't mess with is Riker, because he probably wasn't gotten punched in the nuts. That's all I'm saying.
He doesn't mess with Worf too much either.
Yeah, he
gives Worf a little bit of attitude, but not a ton.
Down on the planet when Worf's trying to do his thing and get because these
right before the Traveler appears.
This group has to be extracted, and Worf's trying to do what he can to make sure that happens safely. And
he's trying to prevent violence.
Yeah, Wesley blows his cover, and then violence ensues, which the Traveler is able to stop. So absolutely, to me, wonderful segment. I was glad that they were able to take one of the characters that they knew had been gone from the series for a while, and they gave him a real ending, and I really absolutely adored that. So I
did think that some part of it is just because it's 45 minutes. It did feel like some of the switch around was a little quick. From his vision to all of a sudden he's now like understanding and everything to his mom. It's like it's a little fast. Like I get it, but it's necessary for the way that
it is. Yeah, he had this big catharsis, and then all of a sudden, all of his moody nastiness is just. And now I know what I need to do.
But then you still have everyone else who's like, "Why are you not being a dick anymore?" I'm super confused, and now you're choosing something completely different. Like, explain this to me. So it's it's a scene that makes sense, but at least for me, there was just a hair of whiplash there. Just okay.
A little bit like, this is episodic television. We have, again, 44 minutes and 38 seconds to tell the story. And
it's not like we could have this catharsis and then have him actually make his decision in the next episode. You had to do it by the end of this one. So
exactly. So, but they, I think they did well. So, all right, well, this is going to be a tough one, because I think picking a best episode, not that challenging. Picking a worst episode, also really not that challenging, but let's give it a try. I'll go for, we'll go best, and then we'll circle back to last. And maybe we're going to have to do, it's a 4-way tie. I don't know. We never do ties though. So I don't know that that's a reason to change that rule. I'm going to unsurprisingly say Journey's End was my favorite. Ron Moore, peaking at his very early brilliance before, he's really fully involved in DS9 and then, leading down the road to even bigger things in DS9, but handling character growth and change and subverting the expectations and dealing with family issues and his interaction with Picard and standing his ground and resigning from the Academy. It was just all handled really, really well. So that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
all right, favorite for you. Don't dip into the not favorites just yet. You got to hold back.
Let's see. For my favorite, I think I'm gonna go a little bit off the rails and say Thine Own Self.
Okay. All right.
Not because it's like the best out of the bunch, but because I enjoy a lot of the elements from it, and I really like a lot of stuff in it, and I think that the B plot actually complements and does good things, which is very rare for this season. I think because it's a complete bit.
Yeah.
Lower Decks also does that, but like because Thine Own Self does it a complete bit and has two very, very different things going on, I think that this one just edges out just a little bit. And I like kind of the weird, science versus like superstition, and then it's like, oh well, what's wrong? Radioactive rocks. So there's just
it's got to be something.
So there's just a lot of things about it that I think are kind of interesting. So
that's fair. I appreciate that. All right, now this is the Sophie's choice of horror, basically. The easy answer is Sub Rosa, but you know what? I would almost say, here's the thing. I'm going to throw this rule down, and if you disagree with me, we'll talk about it. I think you take Sub Rosa out altogether.
Yep.
I think you can't. I'm glad you agree. I don't think you could even. There's nothing redeemable about that at all, which is a shame, particularly based on the talent involved with it. But if you look at the other episodes, I'm going to absolutely go with Masks because I can barely tell you anything about. Well, I don't know. You're having different thoughts. I mean, let me take one last glance. No, I'm going to have to go with Masks. Sorry,
that's fair.
Because it's just kind of nonsense. It was
absolute nonsense. Yeah.
It's like it's a bottle show, but not a bottle show because it happens on the ship. Yet they build a lot of new sets, but the sets look kind of crappy. No offense to the wonderful craftsmen that did the show, but it was like, where are we going with this? You know what I mean?
I think we rated like a local B movie that was doing Middle Ages stuff
like it was Sub Basement double Q in building 612 on the Paramount lot had all this weird.
I mean, Star Trek is known for dumpster diving for set parts, so
yeah, and it's fine.
I'm not saying that's what happened, but
right, and so yeah. Well, that makes a tough choice for you. Because you can't pick Sub Rosa, so you got to pick something else.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of a toss between Masks and Eye of the Beholder, and I'm going to lean towards Eye of the Beholder just because Masks is nonsense, but there's at least some Brent Spiner hamming it up. Eye of the Beholder, I hate that episode.
Well, it's fantasy about famously a character development that no one likes.
It deals with character development that no one likes. It deals with an issue that is just like, why is this a thing here? And then the trope just is not handled well at all. And and then it kind of backslides on some of Troy's character development in the last step in Thine Own Self.
Right.
So
it's kind of one step forward, two steps back.
It's just such a
it's
such a bad episode.
Yeah. So, oh my God. So that's where we end. So next week, depending on how the schedules align, we will have either one of two special guests. It will be a guest of some variety, unless something gets blown out, schedules change. Mm-hmm. But we will be wrapping up the first series finale that we've ever done, because we're getting the last part of TNG. We're going to be talking about All Good Things. Do keep in mind, further on down the road, we'll do an even deeper dive into All Good Things, but that's much further down the road. So we will treat All Good Things as if we were talking in some ways about any other episode. And then the week that follows that, we will cover the series retrospective, which can be found. I'll have to double check to see if you bought it digitally, if this comes with it. I know I have it on disc. But we'll talk about,
I have it on disc. I'd have to look.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And, usually things that we talk about are kind of easy to to find on Paramount Plus or streaming somewhere. Like, for example, we'll talk about What You Leave Behind, which is the DS9 retrospective, which you can purchase online, or it does.
You can watch with ads on YouTube, I think. So.
Yeah, and as we talked about with a very special guest that you will hear on our Patreon within the next couple of weeks, whose name I don't want to give away, the documentary for Voyager is coming, watch my air quotes, soon. So hopefully by the time we finish season 7 of Voyager, which will be the end of our talking about every episode of Star Trek that has ever been on, and movie, which was, to be honest with you, when I started the show with my former partner at the end of 2020, that was the goal. Talk every episode of Star Trek ever. So if you're a fan of the show, you could hear about every Star Trek that ever exists. So this next episode is a milestone towards accomplishing that, because we will have completed a series that ended intentionally.
Yeah.
For lack of a better expression. So, but yeah, really looking forward to that. And again, we have a special guest, because we're also going to be getting ready for Strange New World season 3 by talking about what has come before. So we'll have Todd Oxtra on to talk with us. I'm just not sure if it'll be next episode or the one after that, because pending negotiations with our other guests. So you will find out about that. But that is our show. Peter, where do people find you out there?
You can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke me, I might say something. I'm mostly active on our Discords. You can also find me over at ELH's Twitch and YouTube channel, where I am playing a Temerian chief engineer on a coaxial warp drive starship.
Well.
We got to move a space station recently.
Fancy pants.
And then you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
I like it. Isn't coaxium a thing?
That's in Star Wars, yeah.
All right, the coaxial, okay, but coaxial, that's from Voyager.
Yeah, the coaxial was the folding of space drive.
The folding of space drive. Well, you can find me on the big 3 socials, at least big 3 that I consider: Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I am at the C3, TheCeeThree. But just like Peter, I love hanging out on our Discords. Our Secret Friends Unite Discord is fun, free to join, and a great place to talk about all things related to pop culture, Trek, wars, geek life, video games, etc. And also, if you're somebody who likes to write emails and you would like to give us your feedback on anything, but in particular this episode, if we got it all wrong talking about, Eye of the Beholder or Masks or Sub Rosa, and you want to make a point, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. The mailbag is always open. We would love to hear from you, because I think it would be very interesting to hear an opposing viewpoint to one of those things. But with that, we will be back next time around. But that brings this chapter to a close. Friends, thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.